The bridge of the celestial dawn hummed with activity. Captain Lyra Van Ari stood tall, her cerulean uniform hugging her form as she scanned the view screen. Glimmering stars filled the void, but Lyra's mind was far from the beauty surrounding her. Instead, it was racing with calculations and strategic possibilities. Captain, incoming transmission from the human ship, the Starfire, announced her first officer, Ensign Kalen. Put it through, she replied, suppressing a sigh. The static flickered away, revealing the familiar face of Captain Jason Cross. His dark hair was tousled, and his expression was an intriguing mix of confidence and amusement. Captain Van Ari, he greeted with a smirk. Seems you're in charge of welcoming committees now? Lyra arched an eyebrow, holding back a smirk of her own. What brings you into Zephyrian space, Captain Cross? Surely it can't be just to trade barbs with me. Jason chuckled, leaning back in his chair. You know me too well. Actually, I'm here for a diplomatic summit, the Alliance of the Three Worlds. I hear you're hosting. Hosting? It's more of a necessary inconvenience, Lyra replied, crossing her arms. But I suppose your people could use a guide through our customs. Good thing I brought my necessary sarcasm, he teased. Lyra couldn't help but roll her eyes. Just make sure your crew doesn't get us into trouble. Last thing I need is an incident with your illustrious reputation tagging along. Jason leaned forward, the humor fading from his eyes. You do know I'm more than just a reputation, right? Let's show everyone that humanity can play nice. Her heart raced with irritation and something else, something more unsettling. I suppose I'll have to help you with that. But if your ship creates any disturbances, you'll find out how well the Zephyrians can be at playing hardball. Hardball, huh? I'll keep that in mind, he mused, a flicker of challenge in his gaze. A knock sounded at the door, interrupting their exchange. Commander Aileen, the head of Lyra's tactical division, stepped in, her green skin shimmering under the lights. Captain, we should run a systems check before the summit begins. I'd prefer to avoid any technical difficulties. Good idea, Aileen, Lyra agreed, grateful for the distraction. Cross, we'll reconvene later. Just remember, this isn't a game. Treat this meeting with the seriousness it deserves. Jason tilted his head slightly, a glimmer of admiration crossing his gaze. Wouldn't dream of treating it lightly. See you soon, Captain. The screen flickered and he was gone. Is there something going on between you two? Aileen asked, raising an eyebrow at Lyra. What are you talking about? Lyra replied quickly, her cheeks warming slightly. Aileen merely smirked, tapping a few buttons on her console. Oh please, I've seen that look from a million light years away. You can't fool me, and you surely can't fool anyone else on this ship. Let's focus on the mission, Lyra replied coolly, but it was a poor cover for the warmth curling in her chest. All right, Captain. I'll just say you might want to consider that rivalry might be more than you're letting on. Aileen smirked again before turning her attention back to the screen. Lyra couldn't help but let out a small laugh, though her mind was still somewhere between annoyance and intrigue. Even as she prepared for the summit, thoughts of Jason lingered in the air. After all, it wasn't every day that a young captain found herself face-to-face with someone who challenged her in ways she had never anticipated. Ready for the checks? Kalen asked, his bright yellow eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Get started on the weapon systems, she replied, shaking off thoughts of Jason. We can't afford any surprises. The next few hours passed in a whirlwind of preparations. Everyone was in high spirits, the anticipation of meeting with other civilizations making the air electric. Despite herself, Lyra felt the bustling energy seep into her bones. As the summit commenced, new delegates entered, each one more impressive than the last. Yet, her focus frequently drifted back to the Starfire. Jason had become a rarely released drama playing just out of reach. Captain, incoming message from Captain Cross, Kalen said, his voice cutting through her reverie. Put him through, she said, her heart racing unexpectedly. The view screen displayed Jason, now flanked by his second-in-command, a burly man named Riley. Forgive the interruption, but we were wondering if you'd like to join us for dinner tonight? You know, to discuss potential collaborations. Lyra bit her lip, weighing the decision. She could hear Aileen's teasing laughter echoing in her mind. Dinner sounds optimal. But are you sure it's wise? I wouldn't want to give anyone the impression that we're too chummy. Chummy? We're just laying down the foundations of goodwill, Jason replied, his playful grin returning. Plus, you know what they say, beneath the veneer of diplomacy, the real negotiations take place. You've been reading too much intergalactic literature, Lyra countered, but she couldn't help but smile. All right, I'll see you tonight. The transmission ended and Lyra felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. What did he say? Aileen asked, barely suppressing a grin. Dinner, Lyra murmured, her stomach knotted with anticipation. Isn't that adorable? Aileen sighed. With the way you treat each other, it's like watching a pair of younglings flirt. Kalen chimed in, just don't get too lost in his charm, we need you focused for the summit. Lyra shot them both a look. I can manage fine on my own. What we truly need is to make the best of the situation. Despite her reassurances, her heart raced at the thought of Jason's presence. She squeezed her hands into fists, willing herself to stay focused on the tasks ahead, but imagining what might unfold that evening kept sneaking back. As the crew finalized arrangements, Lyra found herself glancing at the stars outside, feeling the weight of possibilities or perhaps the pull of something very different ahead. The chapter sets the stage for their quarreling relationship while hinting at growing closeness and respect between the two characters. If you'd like further expansions or modifications, feel free to share. Sure. Here's Chapter 2 of She was the youngest captain in her fleet, but the human was her only equal. This chapter further explores the dynamics between Lyra and Jason as they collaborate in a critical situation. Chapter 2, Unlikely Allies. The diplomatic summit had gone as smoothly as Lyra could expect, with rival races engaging in spirited and sometimes humorous debates. Yet, as the hours passed, a deeper issue lingered in the background. The conference was shaken when news broke of a rogue faction threatening trade routes between their systems. In the war room of the Celestial Dawn, the atmosphere turned serious. We need to act swiftly, Lyra declared, pacing the room while her crew listened intently. Rogue factions undermine everything we've worked for. If we don't neutralize this threat, the delicate balance we established could be compromised. Kalen spoke up. Our fleet can handle a skirmish, but I have a feeling we'll need more than firepower for this. What about the human fleet? Captain Cross would want to help, Commander Aileen suggested, her green skin glistening under the lights. Lyra paused. He can be unorthodox. But I suppose if we can leverage their technology and strategies, it may tip the odds in our favor. Aileen grinned. Are you suggesting we trust the human? It's either that or risk an escalation, Lyra said, folding her arms. Make the call, Kalen. As Kalen sent out the missive, Lyra couldn't shake the sense of impending chaos. Minutes later, the screen flickered, revealing Jason's face once more. He appeared serious, a stark contrast to their previous banter. What's going on, Captain Ventari? Just the situation that is keeping us all awake, she replied, meeting his gaze. We have reports of a rogue faction threatening trade routes in our sector. I think a cooperative effort might be our best shot. Jason nodded, his expression shifting to one of determination. Glad to hear you're open to collaboration. We're ready to assist. What do you have on their movements? We've tracked some suspicious vessels through the outer rings, Aileen chimed in. We need to act fast before they start interfering with major hubs. Jason leaned forward in his seat, eyes narrowing. Let's put our heads together. If we pool our intel and resources, we may find a way to outsmart them. Are you suggesting a joint reconnaissance mission? Lyra asked, intrigued by his assertiveness. Exactly, mix our teams, Jason affirmed. Two fleets working together could gather more intel without raising suspicion. My second, Riley, is great at stealth operations. And no offense, he continued, a playful wink thrown her way, but I trust nothing can escape the watchful eyes of your fleet. Flattery will get you everywhere, Captain, she quipped with a smirk. Let's coordinate our efforts. Later that evening, Lyra assembled her team, Jason's crew joining them on the Celestial Dawn. Riley, the burly human, had a formidable presence, his seriousness offset by a sense of humor that reminded Lyra of Jason. Thanks for having us, Riley said, folding his arms across his chest. I've heard great things about your tactical division. Aileen smiled. More like great things about our captain, she replied. Lyra shot her a look that signaled to tone it down. Focus, please. We need to discuss our approach. Riley nodded, a grin breaking through. Right? I suggest a two-pronged approach. My ship will take the lead in the outer rings while you monitor their communications. Lyra, we'll keep each other updated. That sounds prudent, she agreed, appreciating his straightforwardness. Jason chimed in, and we'll meet back here for an analysis and next steps. This isn't just about gathering intel. We need that intel in actionable terms. Excuse me, but why do you get to decide what next steps are? Lyra felt a surge of defiance. Because I've been in more than a few scrapes, he countered easily. Trust me, I know how to make a plan come together. Her frustration deepened, but as she studied him, She saw the earnestness in his eyes. Fine. We'll let you lead the in-flight operations, but I'm running the briefing afterward. Deal. The next day, the two fleets prepared for the mission. As they awaited the signal, Jason approached Lyra on the bridge. Hey, I'm glad we're doing this together, he said, genuine warmth in his tone. She glanced at him, fighting to maintain her poise. You're not just here for a casual conversation, are you? Just checking in. We have a solid plan, and I believe we can pull it off. We need to be on the same page. Agreed, she replied, feeling the tension between them shift. This feels different. It does. But that's what makes it exciting, right? He replied, a bright smile lighting up his face. Lyra felt something flutter at the edge of her stern exterior. We'll see how exciting it gets. Their conversation was cut short as the alert signaled it was time to depart. The two fleets launched the ships into the void of space. Eerie silence settled between them as each crew advanced towards their objectives. I'll take us into the first quadrant, Jason dictated over the comms. Aileen and Riley, you identify potential targets. Lyra, you're with me up front. Can you visualize what the rogue ships might be up to? I will, she said firmly, confidence replacing previous doubts. Let's do this. As they navigated the dark expanse, Lyra couldn't help but steal glances at Jason, who was focused on the scanners. He exuded a determination she found both comforting and stirring. Then came the signal, 3 ships moving in a protective formation. There they are, she said, a sense of urgency rising in her voice. Riley, Aileen, initiate backup protocols. We'll need your eyes on those ships, Jason said, steady and calm. Aye, Captain. Aileen responded, tapping into Lyra's tactical displays. Let's get our intel, Jason said, his vibrancy infectious. Lyra, stick close. We'll sweep in and analyze. As they engaged in the reconnaissance missions, Lyra began to see the synergy developing between their teams. It wasn't just about the technology. It was about how they worked together, compromising and strategizing as one cohesive unit. Almost there. On my mark, Jason whispered, eyes keenly trained on the target. Lyra nodded, her heart racing. Just say the word. 3, 2, 1. Mark. They rushed through the skirmish, adrenaline flooding the command deck as the teams melded their tactics, creating a whirl of quick decisions that felt almost intuitive. As the mission progressed, Lyra felt the earlier tension replaced with camaraderie. Perhaps collaborating with the humans was a chance to discover strengths and weaknesses, some shared experiences that could deepen their unusual partnership. Nice work, she said to Jason as they regrouped after a thrilling close call. We make a good team. He grinned, a genuine warmth lighting his features. I have a feeling this is just the beginning, Captain. Lyra couldn't help but smile back, feeling that thrilling sense of possibility ignite once more. This chapter builds on the relationship between Lyra and Jason while showcasing their dynamic teamwork. If you'd like further details or modifications, let me know. Here's Chapter 3 of She was the youngest captain in her fleet, but the human was her only equal. This chapter focuses on Lyra and Jason as they navigate a dangerous situation together, fostering their bond amidst adversity. Chapter 3, Crossing Boundaries. The initial engagement against the rogue faction went better than anyone had anticipated. Their combined tactics had led to a swift assessment of the situation, and as they retreated back to the celestial dawn, a sense of accomplishment permeated the bridge. Good work out there, everyone, Lyra said, her voice elevated with pride. We executed our plan flawlessly. Jason leaned against the command console, a triumphant glint in his eyes. Flawlessly, huh? Did we just enjoy ourselves while gathering intel? I'd say we did more than just enjoy ourselves, Aileen chimed in, crossing her arms and nodding. That was some impressive maneuvering, Captain Cross. Thanks, Commander, he replied, a playful grin surfacing. I've had a good teacher or two. Lyra arched an eyebrow at Jason. I hope you're not suggesting I'm teaching you the ways of Zephyrian elegance. Only the best parts, Jason retorted, eliciting laughter from the crew. But as the laughter faded, Kalen's voice broke through the jovial atmosphere. Captain, I'm receiving an incoming message from the rogue faction. Lyra's expression shifted to one of seriousness. On screen, the view screen flickered, revealing a figure in a dark hooded robe surrounded by a dimly lit room. Zephyrians and humans, how quaint. You've meddled in our affairs long enough. Who are you? Jason demanded, stepping closer to the screen, his body radiating a challenge. Merely a facilitator of change, the figure replied. But since you've poked your noses into our business, I can't let you go unpunished. Lyra's heart raced. You think you can threaten us? We've got your coordinates and intel now. We won't be intimidated. The figure laughed softly, devoid of warmth. You underestimate the lengths to which we'll go. I suggest you rethink your decisions carefully. We will be watching your every move. With that, the transmission cut off, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. That was unsettling, Aileen remarked, her brow furrowing. I'll say, Lyra said, her mind racing. We need to tighten our security measures. They may attack while we're vulnerable. Good call, Jason agreed, his expression sharpened. We should also set up a counter-surveillance plan to keep track of their movements outside our perimeter. I'll sync our systems, Kalen stated, swiftly typing commands into his console. Lyra turned to Jason, contemplating the unspoken weight between them. We should also keep our teams ready. This isn't over, not by a long shot. I agree, he replied, his gaze steady. A firm stance might deter them, but we shouldn't lower our guard either. As the atmosphere shifted back to serious discussions, Lyra couldn't shake the thrill she felt when working alongside him. Amid the tension, there was a growing sense of trust that they were building, one based on shared experiences and mutual respect. As the hours passed, Lyra struggled to focus on her duties. The looming threat of the rogue faction pounded in the back of her mind, but it was Jason who kept unwittingly invading her thoughts. Captain? Aileen's voice broke through her reverie. Yes. You've been staring at the wall for a while now. Is everything all right? Aileen asked, concern etched on her features. I'm fine, Lyra replied quickly, though she was aware of her pulse quickening at the thought of having to confront Jason later. Are you sure? You seemed distracted during the debrief, Aileen pressed. Just processing things. We might find ourselves in a serious confrontation soon, and I want to be prepared. Aileen nodded but didn't look entirely convinced. If you need to talk, I'm here. Just know you're not alone in this. Thanks, Lyra muttered, appreciating the offer but unsure about sharing her thoughts with anyone else, including Aileen. That night, tensions remained high on the bridge. Lyra and Jason reviewed reports together, their focus intense. The room was dimly lit, shadows dancing across their features as they scrolled through data. I'm telling you, if we watch their movements closely, we can predict their next target, Jason suggested. Let's just hope they don't decide to escalate, Lyra hesitated. This could easily turn into chaos. Or an opportunity, he countered. You have to see the potential here. If we can outsmart them, we can gather more intel and predict their plans. But it puts both of our fleets at risk, she replied, frustration rising again. You're thinking like a human soldier, not a diplomat. And you're thinking like a Zephyrian commander, Jason stated, his tone softening. There's a balance we need to find, Lyra. We need to meld our strategies. You bring your calculations. I bring instinct and spontaneity. Together, we can stand a chance. Lyra studied him, impressed by the depth of his insight. That's a risky plan. Exactly, he smiled. But isn't that what we signed up for? Don't you want to see what we can do together? Together? She echoed, pondering. Care to join me for a walk on the observation deck? Jason asked, leaning slightly closer, gaze locked onto hers. Let's breathe a bit and talk without the screens in front of us. Sure, why not? She said, surprising herself with her willingness. They made their way to the observation deck, and as they stepped inside, the vastness of space unfolded before them, filled with distant stars and nebulas. The tranquility of the scene eased some tension in her shoulders. It's beautiful, Lyra murmured, gazing at the stars. Isn't it? There's a certain peace in the chaos of it all, Jason said, standing beside her, their shoulders. Of finding beauty amid disorder. Did you now? Lyra replied with a raised eyebrow, intrigued. I did. I've always believed that understanding different cultures enriches us, he said. Like the way we worked together today. For instance, I was impressed with your quick decision-making. Thank you. I appreciate that, she replied, her heart fluttering as their eyes locked. I could say the same about you, Jason continued. There's always strength in camaraderie. And in vulnerability. Vulnerability? Lyra echoed, tilting her head. I mean opening up, showing the parts of ourselves we don't always let others see. It makes us stronger, he elaborated, shifting slightly closer. Is that how you see this? She asked, feeling a strange warmth blossom in her chest. As a chance for vulnerability? Absolutely, he replied earnestly, his gaze intense. I believe the connection we're building could lead to something valuable between us and our fleets. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. You truly think so? I do. It's all about taking that step, even if it's scary, he said. And yes, it's that connection that allows us to be strong together. She considered his words, feeling the warmth of the moment seep into her skin. Before she could answer, a sudden alert erupted on the bridge's communication system. Captain, Kalen's voice crackled urgently through the intercom. We have an emergency situation unfolding. Jason's expression shifted to serious once more. Duty calls. Let's see what happens next. With adrenaline rushing through her, Lyra nodded, knowing their connection had grown deeper amidst unsafe territory. This chapter explores emotional boundaries while progressing the relationship between Lyra and Jason. If you have any adjustments or further requests, let me know. Here's Chapter 4 of She was the youngest captain in her fleet, but the human was her only equal. This chapter focuses on the growing relationship between Lyra and Jason as they share moments away from the chaos, leading to a significant transition in their bond. Chapter 4, Shared Horizons. The emergency situation turned out to be a false alarm, a minor skirmish on the fringes of their territory. As the tension on the celestial dawn subsided, Lyra found herself reflecting on the evening that had unfolded. With the threat temporarily neutralized, her crew celebrated. Great job today, Captain, Kalen exclaimed, lifting a mug of synthesized ale in her direction. We handled that well. Cheers to teamwork, Aileen added, raising her drink, and to the humans for their valuable assistance. Jason stood at the edge of the room, his playful grin unmistakable. I could get used to the celebrations. Seems like I've found my second home. It's all in a day's work, Lyra responded, trying to remain composed, though a sense of excitement bubbled beneath her skin. As the crew mingled, she spotted Jason slipping away from the celebration. Hey, Cross. Where are you off to? She called after him. He turned, a slight smirk playing on his lips. I thought I'd take a moment to breathe. Wouldn't want to get caught up in the chaos of post-mission celebrations. Don't be a party pooper, she teased, following him to a quieter part of the ship. Jason leaned against the wall, fingers drumming lightly on the console. I just thought things might settle down. Occasionally, it's nice to step back. Believe it or not, I get that, she replied. They shared a moment of comfortable silence, allowing the ship's gentle hum to fill the gap. I think it's fascinating how different cultures handle celebrations, Jason said, breaking the stillness. Back on Earth, we do things a bit differently. Our celebrations are often loud and boisterous, while yours have a certain elegance. Lyra smiled. We appreciate order during celebrations. It's about reflection and unity rather than extravagance. We could learn a thing or two from each other. Perhaps our next gathering should involve more spontaneity, he said, a teasing sparkle in his eyes. Her laughter bubbled up unexpectedly. You'd want to introduce wildness to our crew? I'm not sure they're ready for that. Jason chuckled. You never know until you try. Besides, what's life without a bit of unpredictability? I suppose it's all about balance, she agreed, her heart racing at the playful exchanges. Kind of like our teams. We complement each other. Exactly, he said, his gaze locking onto hers. You and I complement each other. Careful, that sounds like flirting, she said, half joking, yet feeling the pulse of sincerity beneath his words. Is it flirting if it's true? He countered, moving a fraction closer. Lyra could see the warmth in his eyes, the sincerity making it hard to breathe. Before she could respond, a sudden alert broke their moment. Captain, incoming communications. Kalen's voice crackled over the intercom again. Lyra sighed, the moment dispersing. Let's get back to the bridge. They returned to the command center, where the monitors displayed suspicious movements along the outer perimeter. A group of unidentified ships were entering their territory. Intel indicates they are not the same faction, Captain, Kalen reported. They may be scavengers or traders, but the anomaly is concerning. Jason, what do you think? Lyra asked, turning toward him. They may be looking for trouble, or maybe they think we're softened from the last skirmish, he said, stroking his chin thoughtfully. We should initiate communication first. See if we can defuse any potential misunderstandings. Agreed, she replied, appreciating his instinct. Kalen, send out a hailing signal. Let's offer them an opportunity to identify themselves. Kalen nodded and transmitted the message. Moments later, a flickering image appeared on the main screen. The face that materialized was grizzled with an air of defiance. "State your business," the figure growled. "This is Captain Lyra Ventari of the Celestial Dawn. We're here to ascertain the intentions of your ships entering our territory," she replied, keeping her tone firm. The figure on the screen laughed gruffly. "You think you can intimidate us with your fancy Zephyrian fleet? We're just passing through. All vessels entering our space must declare their intentions," Jason interjected, speaking from behind her. "And threats won't be taken lightly." The figure's brow arched at Jason's stance. Humans always with a sharp tongue. "Don't play games with me, Captain," he spat before cutting the connection. "That didn't go well," Kalen muttered, a hint of worry creeping into his voice. "Prepare for possible defensive maneuvers," Lyra barked, her determination guiding her actions. "They may not retaliate immediately, but we need to be ready. Shouldn't we consider alternatives, Captain?" "We have options," Jason suggested, stepping closer. "Negotiation could still work if we present the right invitation." Lyra hesitated, weighing her options. "You're right, but they seem too driven by hostility. With a little finesse, we can flip the script," he offered, his eyes sparkling with that familiar excitement. "Let me handle the negotiation. I have a knack for understanding people, even the gruff ones." "Do you always let your confidence take the lead?" Lyra questioned playfully. "Only when the stakes are high," he replied with a confident smile. "Let's give them something to think about." Lyra thought for a moment before nodding. "All right? You handle the negotiation. Just stay cautious." "You know I will." His expression turned earnest. "Trust me, I won't let anything happen to you or your crew." Later, they found themselves in a room away from the command console, preparing for the negotiation. Lyra stood on one side of the holographic table while Jason paced on the other. "What if they respond poorly?" she asked, feeling the pressure of uncertainty. "They might surprise us," he replied in a comforting tone. "Remember, we're not just here to defend, we're here to engage. You taught me that through collaboration we can make things work." "Let's hope they feel the same way," she murmured, her nerves tingling at the thought. Jason paused, studying her intently. "If it helps, I believe our intentions are genuine. We're not here to cause chaos." "You mean you're not here to cause chaos?" she teased with a grin. "Touché, Captain," he chuckled, running a hand through his hair. "But really, I'm in this because I believe in the strength of our alliance. And I wouldn't want to tarnish what we've built in these short days." Lyra felt her heart warm at his words. "You've become quite the diplomat, haven't you?" "Let's just say I'm learning from the best," he replied, stepping closer once more. "I admire how you lead. It inspires me to be better." "Does it?" she breathed, feeling a mixture of both admiration and curiosity. "Of course," he smiled, "and not just in the tactical sense. You've got a remarkable ability to bridge differences. Don't underestimate your impact." Their gaze lingered for a moment, the air thick with unspoken tension. "Ready?" he asked, breaking the spell. "Ready as I'll ever be," she said, taking a deep breath. As they stepped back onto the bridge, the energy felt charged with possibility, setting the stage for what was to come. "Let's see how well we can negotiate," she declared with newfound determination. This chapter captures the growing bond between Lyra and Jason while showcasing their teamwork under pressure. If you need further adjustments or additional developments, just let me know. Here's Chapter 5 of She was the youngest captain in her fleet, but the human was her only equal. This chapter showcases the climax of their collaboration and the deepening relationship between Lyra and Jason. Chapter 5, A New Path. The atmosphere on the bridge of the Celestial Dawn buzzed with anticipation as Lyra and Jason prepared to initiate communication with the rogue traders. Both crews were tense, the atmosphere thick with uncertainty. "Remember the plan," Lyra said, shooting one last glance at Jason. "Stick to the outlined protocols. We have to establish trust." "You got it, Captain." Jason stood beside her, eyes focused on the main screen. "Let's show them that we're not just here to intimidate. We're ready to negotiate." Kalen tapped a few buttons on the console. "Incoming signal from the rogue craft, Captain. They're ready to converse." "On screen," she commanded. The grizzled figure reappeared, but this time a few more crew members stood with him, filling the space behind him. "You've got guts, Zephyrian," the figure sneered, his expression defiant. "What do you want from us?" Lyra stepped forward, maintaining her composure. We merely want to understand your intentions in our territory and see if we can reach a mutually beneficial agreement. Mutually beneficial? Ha! The figure laughed. You've got a lot of nerve trying to negotiate. You Zephyrians think you own these stars. The stars belong to no one, Jason interjected, stepping beside Lyra. But every ship in this sector deserves respect and safety while traveling. The figure's eyes narrowed at Jason. And what's the humans' role in this? I thought they sent the warriors to fight, not discuss. We respect all cultures, Jason replied smoothly, displaying a confident smile. We believe in finding common ground. Now, what are your intentions? What are we? Merchants. Nothing more, nothing less, the figure replied, the edge in his voice softening slightly. Then let's talk trade routes. You must know the value of good partnerships, Lyra said, her voice firm yet diplomatic. We can offer protection as you transit through our territory. Protection comes at a price, the figure replied, his interest piqued. Of course. And what price do you have in mind? Jason asked, stepping into the role of negotiator. The figure leaned back, crossing his arms. Information is currency in these parts. Give us intel and we'll consider your offer. Intel on what? Lyra pressed, sensing their people were walking a fine line. On the movements of your fleets. We heard whispers of a possible alliance forming between the Zephyrians and the humans. We'll need to prepare ourselves. Why on earth would we disclose that information? Jason challenged. Because if you don't, we'll let our ships roam freely and you won't like the results. Lyra exchanged a glance with Jason, uncertainty flashing in her eyes. We can offer you limited intel, but not at the cost of our fleet's safety. The grizzled trader recognized the firmness in Lyra's voice. Limited doesn't inspire trust. We'll provide you with safe passage through our territory without compromising operational security, she replied, hoping to strike a balance. Safe passage and limited intel, the trader said thoughtfully. That's more like it. Jason leaned in, keen to solidify their agreement. We'll prepare a trade document outlining our deal. You have our word that we will uphold our end. See, this wasn't so hard, was it? The trader grinned, satisfaction flickering across his face. Just watch your ships. If trouble arises, we won't hesitate to respond, Lyra warned. The figure nodded slowly. Fine, we'll accept these terms. But remember, I keep my ear to the ground. Any breach and you'll pay. The screen went dark, leaving Lyra and Jason standing side by side. A sense of accomplishment filled the air, but Lyra felt an unusual warmth eclipse the success. Not bad for a first negotiation, Jason said, turning to her. You were formidable back there. Thanks, but I couldn't have done it without you, she replied, her heart racing. Your instincts really helped steer the conversation. That's what partners do, he said, confidence illuminating his features. As the intensity of the moment settled, the tension morphed into something deeper. I think I'm getting the hang of this partnership, Lyra said, her voice softer than before. Jason's expression reflected similar sentiments. Me too. I didn't expect to find such synergy on this mission. Neither did I, she admitted, feeling a flutter of excitement. But I'm glad we did. Just at that moment, a loud cheer erupted from the crew, pulling them back to reality. Captain, you did it. Kalen shouted, clapping Lyra on the shoulder. Aileen jumped in, her laughter bright against the somber backdrop. You two might be our best negotiation team yet. Let's not celebrate too early, Lyra chuckled nervously. We still have a lot of work ahead. Sure, Jason said with a wave of dismissal. But let's enjoy this. We earned it. Let's gather in the lounge, Kalen suggested, excitement clear in his eyes. We can toast to our first successful negotiation. Amidst the jovial chaos, Jason leaned slightly closer to Lyra. Shall we? A little celebration could be the perfect way to solidify our teamwork. Why not? Lyra replied, her heart racing. It's been a long day and I think we all deserve a break. In the lounge, crew members gathered, sharing stories, laughter, and relief at their successful mission. As they all lifted their glasses, Jason caught Lyra's gaze. To new partnerships, the crew echoed. Amidst the clinking of glasses, Jason leaned toward Lyra. Here's to many more collaborations. I'll drink to that, she said, feeling a rush of possibilities ahead. The celebration continued, and as the night wore on, the laughter enveloped them. In the midst of the excitement, Jason found a moment to pull Lyra aside. Hey, he said, sincerity shining in his eyes. Can we talk for a second? Of course, she replied, intrigued. Once they were away from the raucous crew, Jason hesitated before speaking, a flicker of vulnerability in his expression. I want you to know how much I appreciate working with you. Really? She asked, taken aback. I didn't expect to hear that. It's true. You not only excel at leadership, but you also inspire your crew. I see how they respond to you, he said, warmth glowing in his gaze. And I guess it's made me think more about us. A thrill of anticipation built within her. Us. Yeah, he admitted, stepping closer. This connection we forged. I think it's something worth exploring beyond the confines of diplomacy. Are you saying she felt her voice trail off, anticipation mingling with uncertainty? Let's not rush things, but he began, then took a deep breath. What if we see where this leads? Together? Lyra's heart raced, every instinct urging her to embrace the moment. I think I'd like that. Jason's expression softened, the resolve in his gaze growing steady. Good, then let's take things one step at a time. As they stood there, the sounds of celebration muted in the background, Lyra felt the weight of the world slip away. They shared an intimate silence, the air crackling with unspoken possibilities. Jason took her hand gently and she felt the warmth of connection blossom between them. They both silently acknowledged the journey ahead, ready to face challenges and explore the depths of their growing bond. This chapter captures the resolution of their negotiation as well as the evolution of Lyra and Jason's relationship. If you would like any changes or further developments, just let me know.